Asmon fazendo um react do Kripp'S e a gente fazendo um react do Asmon fazendo um react do Kripp'S.
Class tier list. All right, let's take a look at this.
Hey guys, how's it going? Kripp'S here. Today we're going to do the Diablo 4 class review. Some of you guys have really been waiting for my opinion on this. I have just finished playing the 2 classes they added in the second round of beta, and this is basically all we're going to get until the game actually releases a couple of months from now. It is a low-level experience, but there is a lot to be learned even from a low-level experience, and I will mention the changes.
Yeah, I do think the low-level experience also matters a lot. People that are going on about how, oh, well, it doesn't matter because they get to higher level. Bro, somebody who plays a druid isn't going to end up at higher level because they're going to quit the game. They're going to see their friends playing on these other specs and doing way better, and they're just going to be like, well, this isn't fun to play, I'm not going to keep playing this. It's that.
Foi isso que eu falei, tipo assim, ó, o que ele tá falando agora, mano? Ah, você não sabe jogar de... Estão reclamando que o bárbaro tá ruim, o druida tá ruim. Aí a pessoa vai lá e faz uma build de bárbaro dando 300k de dano, um druida carregando o jogo com 2 hits. Não é sobre fazer a build perfeita. É sobre, assim como o jogo tá acessível para qualquer público, o jogo tá casualmente fácil, você conseguir jogar no level up do seu boneco jogando de boa. E não quitar do jogo porque, porra, a classe tá uma merda. A classe tá difícil. Ele não quer, tipo, ah, mas se você dropar o aspecto tal, você vai ficar cheatado e aí você dropa mais um e faz uma build assim assado e você vai carregar o jogo. Não deveria ser tão difícil você fazer a porra do jogo do level 1 ao 25, tá ligado? Tipo, as pessoas... A Blizzard quer captar novos players, porém o povo acaba quitando, velho. Sabe? Tipo, realmente eu achei que os multiplicadores da classe Bárbaro e Druida pro level up estão muito mais inferiores do que as outras classes, tá ligado? Não precisava ser assim. Não precisava chegar no... Ah, mas no endgame vai ser forte. Tá, mas no early game o cara que tava jogando já quitou. Esse cara que quitou de Druida e de Bárbaro porque não conseguiu jogar com a build, não vai comprar o jogo. Entendeu? Tipo, é isso que é tenso.
That simple.
That I expect the classes to experience on a case-by-case basis as they level up in terms of what probably will happen, because we can't see the skill tree, and we have rumors from the Vine of players that have maybe played and all that. Now, before we get into it, quick shout out here to Extrafy. So Extrafy is one of my partners. We have the Kripp'S mouse. Look at that.
Aí é foda, né, cara? Ele abriu a foto do Kripp, tapou a minha, quer dizer, eu tapei a dele. Não, peraí, eu vou ficar aqui então. É isso, tamo junto, bora. Tamo em live com o Asmon e o Kripp'S, acabou. É isso.
Appropriately themed for Diablo 4, I would say. It is my favorite mouse in the world. The Extrafy M4.
Sou do meio, tá, chat?
Made it red, redesigned the outside of it, just the color scheme, but it's exactly as I wanted. It is my favorite mouse in the world. It is the Kripp'S mousepad, the Extrafy K4 midsize, that's my favorite keyboard, and an H2 headset, and you can win it by entering the giveaway. It ends end of day Sunday, which is going to be the 26th, end of day on the 20th.
Refri é esse, cara? Dr. Pepper.
26th. So make sure you get in on that. Link is below. It's a Gleam giveaway. Super easy to enter. On to the content. We're going.
Sua canta no mesmo nível da deles. Pro streamer. Como assim nível? Ah, pode crer, de qualidade? Dá-lhe, viu? Eu falei que a gente ia chegar lá. Eu disse. Só falta agora o monte de view e essas coisas.
We're gonna kick it off with what I consider the worst overall class to the best. We have.
Eu considero a pior classe geral para o melhor que temos. Druida. Olha a cara do Asmon.
Of Druid. So Druid, and again, I am comparing near 25 with just found gear. So I know I've been playing like a level 25 Sork and a few others for a while after. No, I re-leveled some of those. This is the gear that you can expect to have while you're leveling. Honestly, it's probably a little bit better than you can expect to have, because in the beta there is a...
Pera, deixa eu tirar um pouco a legenda da cara do Kripp'S aqui, porque senão vai dar ruim, né, velho? Aí.
Roughly 3 times multiplier on dropped legendaries. So these characters, this is not like farming the one level 35 mob for like 20 hours to get gear that's essentially like level 40 gear. No, none of that, okay? This is what you can expect to have as a true leveling experience in terms of gear, and no specific
Eu não some essa barrinha.
legendaries other than maybe a few that I find, and I'll outline how that worked out. So Druid. Druid works pretty simply. You have spirit generators and you have spirit
so he's using
spenders.
pulverize too.
There are many classes of
botou
skills
3
that are
level na
like
skill.
light.
Here's one way to tell if a class sucks. If people are putting extra points into the basics
ele viu a mesma coisa que eu, tá ligado?
skill, it sucks.
Melee, lightning.
O que essa skill faz mesmo? Aquela ali é do ponte de terra, aquela ali é de jogar o bagulho de vento. Ah, é a de bater melee, né, com raizinho, pode crer. Ah, essa skill era boa, pô.
Ranged. Melee, which is like the werewolf transform, and melee, that's the werebear transform, and you just transform for the attack individually is how it works.
Yep.
The skills are themed appropriately. For the basic skills, there's no real standout. They're all okay. I think maybe Storm Spike is among the better ones because you have Immobilize and Vulnerable that can proc,
vulnerability
which
is really good.
Nice.
It's 20%
Pulverize
damage.
is an interesting skill because every 10 seconds, if you remain over 80 health, it guaranteed overpowers, and overpowers a lot of damage. So basically, this type of Pulverize build, kind of like melee, it's pretty good if you're doing like a questing, because every 10 seconds this ability will actually do a ton of damage. Otherwise, I've found that Landslide is probably the best way to spend your spirit. The Cyclone Armor's pretty good, Blood Hell's pretty good.
Por que ele botou transformação? Ah, não, é só o grito, né?
They have minions, but they don't really shine. You might be able to stack.
Yeah, the minions suck. I tried using them, they're just... they suck.
Because there's some legendary.
Os minions do druida tava muito merda, velho. Eu parei de jogar com o druida level 15. Eu cheguei nos minions, peguei level 15. Tava todo mundo no chat, tipo assim, super hypado. Oh, vamos liberar os lobinhos, lobinho. Chegou na hora de liberar os lobinhos, filho. Os lobinhos eram horríveis. Horríveis. O dano dele era, sei lá, 15 de dano. Horrível. Tipo, 2 lobinhos. O mecha começa com 4 caveiras dando 15 de dano. 15 a 25, 35.
Powers, and you have Trample as a movement skill. And I'll just give you guys a little bit of a demo
let's take
here.
a look at it.
Overall, I'm going to rank these classes out of 10. This is just a dungeon I like in particular. Druid is the lowest damage class in Diablo 4. I would rank it a 4 out of 10 damage. So we can use like a movement skill, but you notice it actually takes a little bit to cast.
Yeah.
So we're going to...
O urso dele é o urso das neves lá, como é que é o nome? O meu urso era pardo. Será que tem a ver com a cor do cabelo mesmo, que nem falaram? A cor do cabelo do boneco define a cor do urso e do lobo? Da hora, né?
Guaranteed overpower, that's the big slap. So we want to heal, but that actually takes a second, you know? We want to punt away with Cyclone Armor, that takes a second. With Druid, the tools are there, but they're all pretty low damage in the beta.
Bro, he's having to skip past the fucking porcupines, man.
And they're all really slow.
This guy should have used a pylon. That would have helped.
That the Druid will have pretty good damage later on, just because you're able to get some pretty powerful combos.
Yeah, but like whenever you get the pylon, you're gonna go all the way up to like an 8, though.
You won't have to use spirit generators as much. Your spirit always stays the same. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. It's not too bad. Oh, Conduit Shrine, that's nice. But the slap while questing...
All right, now we get to see how good Druid really is.
I think makes it a playable character, even though the damage is like really low. You can see here, this is not good damage. It's like okay just from those overpower guarantees.
Cara, é muito. O druida era muito roleplay, era muito RP, tá ligado? Parecia que você tá fazendo um RP de GTA, tá ligado? Que tipo, bate em cada bichinho com clique, vai. Eu te juro, cara, meu pulso tá doendo até agora de jogar de druida. Estourou meu pulso, cara, no domingo. Jogando de druida. Acho que foi sábado, na real. Estourou meu pulso, cara. De tanto que eu tava caetando, batendo auto-ataque, batendo. Nossa, sério. É muito roleplay pra quem quer, assim. E eu acho que tem que jogar no controle. É obrigado a jogar no controle. O mouse destrói seu pulso, cara.
But that's it.
Yeah.
Very poor damage. Very slow. I think the damage will pick up.
Well, if he had used the conduit pylon, he would have done way better damage. So, I mean, he's really gimping himself here. Druid's really not that bad. All he had to do was use the conduit pylon.
Always going to have a bit of a clunky character.
Viu, gente? O druida não era ruim. Era só usar essa skill aí de raio.
So keep that in mind.
Just
the survival,
trash.
I would say, is 6 out of 10. There are survival skills. There is easy ways to fortify. The werebear has some tanky options.
Oh, yeah.
There are survivability options, but in the beta, they are, again, not really fully realized. Next up.
Da hora essa skin, cara. Da Bárbara dele. Da hora, né, velho?
That's right. It's gonna be Barbarian. Barbarian
Yeah.
I rank as the second worst, or, you know, placing fourth.
It's like Blizzard's fat shaming. All of the big beefy classes are the worst.
Of 5 if you want to look at it. There is some good news with Barbarian though, and that is that
Itens de leveling, eu acho que vai ter. Só que aí eu acho que vai ter a partir do pesadelo, que começa a dropar item único. Aí eu acho que vai ter item de leveling, sim. Talvez tenha item único por DG ou por boss. Não sei como é que vai ser. Mas acho que vai sim, mano.
players have exhaustively played the Barbarian to a point where there are actually pretty good damage builds with Barbarian. The Barbarian, I would say, is this 7 out of 10 damage. The damage is actually respectable, very playable. Okay.
Não, o meu Bárbaro eu peguei level máximo e ele tava brabo, cara. Tipo, a skill de sangramento tava cheatadíssima. Cheatadíssima.
I think damage is good for Barbarian. It's just
E tá errado porque o Alkai já fez uma build OP dando muito dano. Então, cara, só que foi o que a gente falou no início. Não é a questão de você fazer uma build muito OP, sacou? Não é a questão de ter uma habilidade OP que você builda nela. A questão é que esse tier list aqui é sobre as piores para as melhores classes. Você tem que ter, o Alkaiser, ele precisou de itens, afixos, aspectos lendários para deixar a build dele OP. Entendeu? A questão é aqui, é o quanto você tem que se esforçar para gostar do jogo jogando com uma build que tá merda do level 1 ao 25 se você não tiver esses drops de item. Sacou? Porque, tipo assim, querendo ou não, do level 1 ao 25 é o início do jogo. Teve um monte de gente que quitou do jogo porque ama jogar de druida e de bárbaro e tava ruim de fazer o level up. Saca? Eu tava jogando de ciclone. O ciclone tava muito OP com aspectos lendários. Só que a única build que fez eu conseguir upar pro level 25 e fazer todo o conteúdo para conseguir dropar lendários foi a de sangramento. Eu não consegui jogar de ciclone direitinho. Só consegui quando eu dropei o aspecto de ciclone. Entendeu? É sobre isso que é esse tier list aqui, tá ligado? É isso que é tenso, tá ligado? Porque o jogo ele tá sendo feito simplista. Com fáceis itens, DGs mais fáceis, aqui o layout mais simplista, né? Tipo o Paragon mais simplista, tudo mais simplista para pegar novos players, casual players, qualquer tipo de player, né? Conseguir conquistar novos pessoas que vão comprar o jogo e jogar o jogo. Só que aí mete uma classe que é difícil de jogar no início. Ah, late game vai ficar boa. Ele quer jogar agora, entendeu? Para ver se ele vai querer jogar late game. Não faz sentido a classe ser difícil.
their mobility and their slowness, which is what's bad.
Playable damage. How do we achieve that? Well, we go with Flay because bleed is pretty good and you get some extra thorns.
Sangramento. E ele tá montando as builds aqui sem muitos itens lendários. Ele falou no início do vídeo. Essas builds aqui é levando em consideração a drop aleatório que você pega no chão, builda seu boneco e sai andando. Por isso que o druida ficou em pior. E agora o segundo pior é o bárbaro, tá ligado? No caso do top 4.
Actually a decent skill, but it's a damage
Rend was really good in D3 whenever they buffed it too. I remember that. That was fucking insane whenever they actually made Rend good.
Time, so you kind of have to survive.
Ou seja, esse top aqui, ele não é em consideração a pessoa que ficou level 25 spamando DG pra dropar item e melhorar sua build. É sobre um level up linear. Você fez a DG, dropou um item, equipou, upou uma skill, passou de level e foi indo. Esse top aqui é sobre isso. É sobre o level up, a experiência do player que vai jogar o jogo, tá ligado?
In the meantime, it can keep up vulnerable, which is pretty nice. The war cries are all pretty good because they have powerful synergies if you use all of them. So we're just going to use all of them. And it turns out Thorns is...
Aqui que a gente diferencia os bárbaros dos bárbaros. O grito challenge, que você ganha poder de ataque, eu preferi usar o que você agra todos os bichos, porque você ganha 40% de redução. Quando você tá jogando solo, meio que você não agra, tipo, todos os bichos pra você, né? Tipo, vem só uma galerinha ali, você fica mais forte e consegue tancar.
Actually pretty good.
É, um rank de dificuldade de upar, exatamente. Isso.
I wouldn't go all in on a Thorns, I wouldn't go all in on a Bleed, but you know what? If you put it all together, it's like okay. Yes, we have realized okay damage. Bleed plus Thorns plus...
You can tell the good classes versus the bad classes because you tell the good classes compare their damage on elites, and the bad classes compare their damage on quill rats.
As melhores classes você compara dando dano em elite e boss, né? As piores classes você compara dando dano em porco espinho. É isso que ele falou.
It's like, how can I do against this quill rat over here? Let's see.
War cries. War cries have the added benefit that I think they apply to, because I think they're minions, they call the ancients. This is the triple elite pack. This is like a no joke, but you're gonna start seeing.
Yeah, it's no joke, guys.
The survivability isn't so good. I would rank Barb as
já foi 2 poções já, 3 elite.
The lowest survivability, and this is kind of a misconception, I think, because in previous titles,
mais uma poção.
Barbarians was actually one of the tankiest, if not the tankiest characters. In Diablo 4, even though there are some
mais uma poção.
Tools to keep you alive, some survivability options, I think they are below every other class in the game. And because you can't really gain much from closing the gap, you're always going to have that really forced melee playstyle. Even though it's pretty much a consensus that the damage should be pretty good later on. I expect Barbarian to be one of the top damage, if not the top damage in terms of...
Yeah, Barbarian has just more weapon slots, which is going to allow it to have more legendary affixes, which could make it better.
A gente comentou isso ontem. Como o Bárbaro consegue carregar 4 armas e 2 delas são de 2 mãos, o afixo lendário que você coloca, o aspecto lendário que você coloca, o Queen falou afixo lendário, agora eu peguei. O aspecto lendário que você coloca nas armas de 2 mãos, ele ganha o dobro do efeito. Então o Bárbaro no late game, ele vai ser insanamente forte, tá ligado? Talvez seja o mais forte do jogo. Por conta que ele pode usar 4 armas e 2 são de 2 mãos.
Standing in front of your target and target dummying the damage. In terms of that damage, I think Barb is likely to be top or very near the top. You just never escape the forced melee, which always brings your survivability into question. And the tools are just not sufficient. You know, challenging shout and a little bit of regen from it. You have some bare bone fortify options. There's like some movement skills like leap, but it's a 17-second cooldown, and the bar slots are really important for Barbarians, so it really doesn't do too well. The forced melee is really a problem.
17.
And for those Barbarians...
All passive class. Yeah, if there's any spell that you're using as a Barbarian, you've already lost.
Players that are expecting high survivability, this is not the class for you. If you want to play a barbaric, melee, gritty combat character that actually resembles the barbarians in previous games, you're going to want to play the melee rogue. The melee rogue is about the same damage.
Por que o bagulho foi pra cara dele de novo, velho? Eu dei alt tab?
As barbarian, but the survivability.
Quero ver se está subindo mais isso aqui, parece.
Is pretty good. So rogues have the option of playing melee or range. These are actually the ranged abilities in both their generators and their spenders for energy. Now, their generators hardly generate very much. They mostly focus off regeneration. So we can do like the flurry here. This is my skill of choice, and it's my skill of choice because it's a very high sustained skill.
Já tá jogando errado, botou veneno em vez de botar sombras de imbuimento. Imbuição. Já tá jogando errado.
Where's it here? There it is. Each time Flurry damages a croucher or vulnerable enemy, you are healed for 1% of your maximum life. And Flurry itself, I believe it's here, cascades the vulnerable effect. So what you do is you proc vulnerable with puncture if they get hit for at least 2 of the blades. That's pretty easy to do. You then cascade the vulnerable with Flurry, and Flurry heals you a whole bunch.
That's a lot.
Rogues excel in burst through the effect of imbuements, which imbues the entire skill. So every hit gets this effect. You have the poison, the shadow, the frost. You can use a combination of them. The shadow clone is just 60% more damage for 15 seconds, but it's more than that because you can usually concentrate and use all of your cooldowns out.
O Rogue foi a classe melee que eu mais achei assim, tipo, a árvore foi pensada pra você ter uma progressão mais simplista, tá ligado? Tipo, o cara que nunca jogou o jogo e vai jogar de Rogue, pode parecer uma classe mais tensa de jogar porque ele é squishy, ele morre mais fácil, porém as árvores elas são tipo progressivamente aceitáveis pra quem nunca jogou o jogo. Tipo, skill básica, escolhe uma. Skill principal, escolhe uma. Skill de mobilidade, escolhe uma. Skill de, sei lá, de dano massivo, escolhe uma. Skill de imbuição pra se botar na sua arma pra dar dano de algum elemento, escolhe uma. Ultimate, escolhe uma. Tá ligado? O Rogue é a classe que eu mais achei, tipo assim, um mapa simples pra você construir um boneco, tá ligado?
At once,
so it's
the
like
burst is there, the mobility, like look how good the mobility, that's a huge coverage, and Dash has 2 charges and does pretty good damage, I would say.
Mais intuitivo,
so,
tá
overall,
ligado?
the Rogue, I think, match.
Tipo, você faz o Rogue e você escolhe, vou jogar de melee ou de ranged? Beleza, escolheu. Pega a classe. Vou jogar de vulnerabilidade ou de formandescência. Energia, né, que é a dele. Escolheu. Aí você passa pro principal, mobilidade, skill de ali masterizada, imbuição, ultimate. Construir o boneco. É o mais intuitivo, assim, é o mais... Porém, é uma classe melee, né, tipo, ela é de perto, a não ser que você escolha jogar de ranged, e ele é mais squishy, até mais que a maga. Ele toma muito dano, tá ligado? A única coisa que salva ele é o véu das sombras, que você ganha mais redução de dano. Só que pra isso você tem que bater. Ou ter muito ponto na skill, o que não vale a pena, tá ligado?
Matches the Barbarian in damage potential, at least in the beta. I would rank it 7 out of 10 damage. It easily surpasses the Barbarian.
I've seen rogue damage that's better than mine on my wizard. So I actually I think that there could be some rogue builds that are way better than this.
In terms of survivability, just through this significant regeneration that it can have. It's also a really fast character, which, I mean, you can just tell it's just really fast. It's brutally fast. So being a really fast character, it allows you to basically outplay situations. It's for those min-maxers, those high APM players. You're probably going to at least look at the Rogue as one of the options. Now, unlike Barbarian, I don't expect the Rogue's damage to go up that much later, but it's pretty good already. But one thing that I really like with Rogue,
Ele não acha que supera o dano porque ele não viu a nossa build de crossbow, né, chat?
I don't know if I have it here.
I think the fact that they can spread status ailments so quickly is going to make them really good at endgame. Because usually status ailments are one of the hardest things to scale whenever you're playing a certain class.
No, it's in the core skills. Yes, here it is. Heal for 1% of your maximum life when you critically strike close enemies. So for melee gameplay and rogue, in the beta, it's actually really hard to get much crit, but I imagine at high level you'll be able to target focus crit.
Outra coisa também, que ele não tá vendo dano no rogue dele, ele não colocou nenhum ponto na passiva de exploração. Que foi a outra situação que aconteceu, que falaram pra mim num comentário, que a build melee tava melhor que a minha build de crossbow. Acho que o cara não viu o vídeo, né? Porque assim, além de estar dando 5k de dano em área em todos os bichos da tela com um hit, a minha passiva de exploração, ela tem que ter em qualquer build de rogue. Porque ela faz você dar dano explosivo, tanto em bicho com a vida cheia, quanto em bicho com pouca vida. Tá ligado? Ela é uma passiva core pro rogue, tem que ter na sua build. Qualquer build de rogue tem que ter passiva de exploração, tá ligado? Aqui não tem, que é a de baixo. Aqui ó, é a mais pra baixo, aqui em linha reta. Ele não botou ponto.
And I think with this ability, I don't think it has, passives don't tend to have cooldowns in Diablo 4. So I imagine that a high-level rogue actually has much higher survivability. A high-level rogue might be one of the best survivability classes.
Em inglês.
Maybe. We'll see. You know, with those type of stats, you typically need crit to work for your damage as well. I imagine it does, right? But
I worry that, like, rogue won't have the health pool and the DR pool, like the damage reduction pool, to be able to survive big one-shots. Because I think rogue can heal really fast, but it doesn't matter how much you heal whenever you get one-tapped.
Exato.
You know, I don't know 100%.
But I don't know a lot about
rogue.
But
overall, I'm feeling pretty confident about it. I think it is a good choice. Necromancer. So we played Necromancer today. Necromancer does a ton of damage. Just out of the gate, I will tell you that Necromancer, in my opinion, is a 10 out of 10 damage class.
It does the most damage. Of all the damage,
again,
this does all of it.
Target dummy here. Like, mob is here, we do damage. We have skeletons. You have this, like, Book of the Dead thing.
Não, peraí. Já tá jogando errado, né? Você lembra que ele tá? Cadê o Golem? Por que ele tá jogando ossos? Cadê a skill base?
Where you can either use one of
vou deixar a build dele, vou deixar.
3 different versions of Skeleton Mage.
Por que ele tá usando esqueleto de gelo, se o único que...
Golems and melee skeletons, or you can not use them and gain a passive effect. So in the case of Skeleton Mages, I'm not using them to deal 15 increased damage to vulnerable enemies.
Basicamente, ele falou que a segunda melhor classe pra você upar, e aí, Tobson, é o Necro. Só que aí ele pegou a skill mais forte do Necro e sacrificou, que é os Minion Mago. O principal dano de Minion do Necro é os Magos. E ele sacrificou os Magos. Tipo, acho que se ele botasse Mago de Sombras, o Necro estaria no top 1, mas tudo bem.
Is that worth it? I don't know. Maybe. The Skeleton Mages are pretty good. The Skeleton Warriors are pretty good. I'm actually running a very specific build with this character because I happen to find Blood Mist triggers corpse explosion on surrounding corpses when Blood Mist detonates.
That's a good one.
So that probably sounds...
that is a good spell.
...like alien stuff to you.
Man.
But basically... Necros have no movement skills, but they have this Blood Mist skill where they run slower, and if you put a point into it, it can spawn a corpse under it each second. Now, with this ability, it constantly triggers Corpse Explosion, the actual skill that you have, and each time it does that, it reduces the cooldown of it. So this particular build is pretty high damage, and it's almost near full invulnerability uptime. I imagine this will be pretty nerfed, but the real reason why I give Necro 10 out of 10 damage is Bone Splinters.
Yeah, it can keep up vulnerability like 100% of the time.
Actually, okay, Bone Spear is also a really good skill. And Bone Spirit uses all your spirit and like has a massive damage multiplier. That's a really good skill.
Yep, I have that.
There's just some really good skills, but the one skill that I think is...
Cara, por que esse cara, ele upa skill básica, mano? E aí, Furioso, salve, mano, bem-vindo. Ele upa skill básica, cara, por isso que ele... vamos ver até o final.
Creme de la creme here is Bone Splinter. So Bone Splinters
Creme de la
Use it
creme.
here real quick. Just like, you know, a few little darts, basically. Sometimes it shoots 3, sometimes it shoots 5. I think it's like 33% chance to shoot 5, so 1 in 3. It's not too bad. But if something is even pretty close to melee, all of them will hit. So it is a pure shotgun ability. That is really, really nice. The lucky hit chance, considering that you're hitting 3 to 5 times per cast, is very decent. Remember, this is a level 2. At max, if you count the extra splinters, you're likely to get 30% chance. You are probably going to look at a skill that's about 140 average damage. You can get near guaranteed vulnerability because it's very easy to hit with 2, or you can get a passive crit buff.
I think
now,
vulnerability
crit is pretty good, and with bone skills, you can actually get a build where you stack essence and you get massive flat crit chance for just not really using many spenders.
Wow.
And this is insane because the basic skill is, in my opinion, and I think it's pretty clear cut, I think it's the best basic skill in the game. So
yeah, probably.
You can just spam off of that. I think you can make a character purely off of basic skill. And just so we're clear, there are some massive basic skill multipliers. There's gems and weapons, I believe it's yellow gems, that are multipliers to basic skill damage. There is a legendary ability that is like 70% attack speed with basic skills. So the game just has, and I think there's just a stat that is like 22% basic skill damage. So basic skill damage is like super common to skill. The problem is most characters don't have a good basic skill. But the Necro, it easily has the best one. And I have to imagine that Blizzard's not going to create such a massive scaling part of the game and not have any decent basic skills for anyone. The Necros is really a big standout, and I'll just show you here. So this is no bone skills. Like, I have none of those like crazy passives with crit. Look at that, I'm just one-shotting these mobs in melee range. This is an insane ability.
Ó, lembrando, essa aqui não é a melhor build para Necro. O que o Kripp tá fazendo é mostrar que qualquer pessoa que não tem noção de build vai fazer uma build aqui aleatória. Qual é a dificuldade que ele teria para upar o boneco, fazer o leveling do Diablo 4. Então ele tá mostrando na ordem de pior pro melhor quais seriam as melhores classes para uma pessoa que nunca jogou o jogo jogar, tá ligado? Pode ver que a build dele aqui não tá das melhores, tá ligado?
Right? Now, it is pretty annoying to have to run.
And by the way, keep in mind, all this is just, it pales in comparison to the real damage, which is the corpse explosions. Quill rats and shambles.
To melee and use like a shotgun ability, but I think from a Pior's number standpoint, it's very good. We also see the minions doing a pretty good job at doing a little bit of extra damage, and of course tanking. If you're curious, kind of stood still there. That was kind of weird. We have Cursing, which offers a powerful survivability boost, and the minions tend to just also take a few hits. But if you're noticing, the minions are also kind of dying a lot. Actually, you can't move it out. What is that about?
By the way, I don't like how basic skills work in the game. I think that it's stupid that there's a mandatory skill that every single time you use it, it feels bad. Why? It's silly.
Anyway, you get the idea. Necros are pretty cool.
É um rolê que eu tava pensando, tá? Tipo assim, a minha build de Necro, eu não gastava mana. Caso essência, né? O recurso. Eu tinha 2 skills que não gastavam recurso pra usar. Eu usava elas de graça, só tinha que esperar o cooldown voltar. E eu era obrigado a pegar 3 pontos de skill base. Tá ligado? Isso eu achei meio... né. Você é obrigado a pegar uma skill base e botar 2 level nela, tá ligado? Sendo que você não usa a skill. Achei isso... tá ligado? Poderia ter... sei, cara. Tipo, sei lá, não quero pegar um ponto de skill. Aí você bota um ponto em... que nem ali o livro dos mortos, que você sacrifica o seu summon. Sei lá, vou sacrificar um ponto. Aí você sacrifica, não sei, ganha 2% de dano. já resolveria meu problema, tá ligado? Porque, tipo, você é obrigado a botar 3 pontos na primeira árvore básica, depois mais 3 na árvore principal. Eu não usava nenhuma das duas árvores. Eu tinha que gastar 6, 7 pontos pra conseguir chegar na árvore que eu usava com o Necro. Isso eu achei que, tipo, faltou um pouco de flexibilidade pra você montar a sua própria build, sabe? Você é obrigado a pegar certas coisas.
Cool. Why can't they move with that? That's actually pretty weird. Might actually be bugged or something. I'm not able to move when I have Blood Mist active, but normally you can, and it auto spawns the detonates, which is pretty good. But yes, so right now I have the Decrepify Curse, which is a slow 40% and 20% less damage. So that is a very big effect. No, we got it. I was just misclick. And yeah, it's pretty good. I think there might be some options for minion-based builds, but I would say they would be slim at endgame.
It depends on how minions scale. Because I would worry that, like, the minions would just get absolutely fucking deleted whenever you take them into, like, higher level content, but I'm not sure about that.
Essa foi a minha dúvida também. Só que eu acho que é limitado porque só tinha o ato 1 disponível. Como você aumenta o dano dos seus minions? Como você faz os seus minions ficarem mais fortes? Qual é o multiplicador de minion? O único afixo que eu achei é velocidade de ataque de lacaio. Foi o único que eu achei. Porém, me chegou até mim que vai ter outros afixos em outros atos, em outras regiões para dropar. Aí eu fiquei melhor com isso, tá ligado?
Have the melee buffs, like you can get 45% increased life on your skeleton warriors. Also, your minions get your stats, but we're playing on the second difficulty of 4 difficulty levels, and if 45 health is the difference, and these are...
O bagulho tá subindo, velho. Giromba aqui.
Just dying a lot. Yeah, I don't think that end game you're going to look towards full minion builds, maybe, but you're going to have to spend...
I kind of like full minion builds. I feel like if you're playing a necromancer and you don't want a full minion build, you're playing a fucking sorcerer.
Tinha um aspecto lendário que aumentava em 30%. Eu peguei esse item. E quando você colocava na arma de 2 mãos, virava 60%. Eu tava usando ele. Só que o único item que aumentava o dano dos minions era um aspecto lendário. Mais uma vez, como se fosse um item de conjunto obrigatório para você ter na build. Então, tipo assim, não temos mais itens de conjuntos, não temos mais itens de conjunto do D3, mas parece que aspectos de conjunto mandatórios, sabe? Isso aí eu achei meio... Mas chegou até mim que vai ter afixos novos nos outros atos, então tá tranquilo.
A lot of your time in minion maintenance. Even with this build, you have to spend some time in minion maintenance. Now, while Necros have the best basic skill in the game, very powerful core skills, very powerful AoE skills, powerful legendary combos, and curses, numbers-wise, they're great. Very high damage, take less damage.
As maldições foram cereja,
one thing they don't have
cereja
at
do bolo,
all,
né, velho?
Is a movement skill. And I really need to factor that in when considering the overall survival. Because survival is not just taking...
Yeah, necromancers will probably do better at higher level content, like more difficult content with things that do more damage, because in that circumstance, you're going to be dealing with probably more mobs if you group all of them up. Like, in general, faster classes are better at doing easier content really fast, and slower classes are better at doing harder content a little bit slower.
Tinha uma skill passiva do boneco, do Necromancer, que você conseguia usar uma magia de sombria e você ganhava 5% de move speed. Eu acho que dava pra aumentar ela até level 3 e você ganhava 15% de move speed. Não lembro por quantos segundos era, eu acho que leva uns 3 ou 5. Quando você usava uma skill sombria, que é com a caixinha roxa. Porém, você não ia gastar ponto nisso, né, no beta, mas tinha lá, para aumentar a mobilidade do Necromancer. Fora isso, a mobilidade do Necromancer é horrível, horrível. Tipo, a sua PT tá lá na frente já, fazendo boss, e você tá chegando, tô chegando aí, tá ligado? É muito, muito lento.
less damage, and certainly Necros take a little bit less damage than, you know, the baseline 100%. You know, they still have some tools with the minions. Now, the minions are gonna die if you have like 2 or 3 rares, or if you find a butcher or any like really hard boss, and it can be really annoying because you need a corpse to summon one of them, right? I would put the Necro survival at 5. Just because of a no movement skill, it is going to be really tough.
I think that Kripp just isn't really taking into account the legendary, because he knows, I mean, it's obviously going to get nerfed. Because, yeah, I think without that legendary, the survivability is not insane. But I think also the survivability, if you're playing with minions, goes from like a 5 to like an 8 or a 9.
To not get pinned down, surrounded, and killed. And I know we have like a near full invulnerability build right now with the Blood Mist weapon affix. I think the damage of this is pretty good, but I think Blizzard is not going to look kindly upon a full invulnerability build, so I wouldn't count on that making it through.
It's done.
But because Necro has so many powerful offensive options, I think that Necro will still likely be king of damage until you get to like the end game, and you're looking at, you know, the super stacking abilities, min-maxing gear, at which point I'm expecting the Barbarian to pull ahead of the other classes. At least I hope so, because otherwise Barbarian is going to be completely hopeless at everything. So that's 4 out of 5 classes. Obviously, I think Sorc is the number 1 class, but how do I rank it in numbers? So the Sorcerer has...
I think Sorc damage is probably... Sorc is really good to play, more so than anything else. I would say damage is an 8, survivability is a 9, but like playability is a 10.
Eu acho o mago, ele era realmente o personagem mais fácil para você jogar. Quem nunca jogou o jogo, o mago era a classe mais fácil para você jogar. Mais fácil. Porque ele tem... Todas as skills dele fazem você ter... São ranged. Você aplica dano mágico. Nos primeiros levels você não tem resistência mágica nos bichos, então é mais fácil de você lidar com isso. E depois você tem a Hydra, né, cara? Que é um totem batendo. Então, tipo, é cheatado.
Pretty decent basic abilities, but it doesn't really need to use them because the resource system just regenerates pretty quickly. Like, if you look at it, that's an like that regeneration rate.
Olha a mana enchendo do Sorcerer, do mago. Aí você vai ver o espírito do druida. Por que fazem isso com a classe, tá ligado? Não precisava, cara. Tipo, já temos relatos de pessoa que quitou do jogo porque o druida tava uma merda. Né?
Is about as much as you can get Fury on a Barbarian constantly using generators. Okay, the Sorc just gets it.
Ei, Dinatora, bem-vindo, mano.
Yeah. We have powerful conjuration abilities that don't do a lot of damage per hit, but they stay up and continuously do damage. Damage-wise, the Sorcerer is very powerful. The teleport skill is the best movement skill in the game. It has the longest distance. It can go through walls. It can be used anytime because it gives you unstoppable, so you can use it while you're CC'd to break CC.
Big good.
And if you level the ability, it actually lowers the cooldown by about 0.5 seconds. Now, I was able to get a level 8 Hydra on the Sorc that I was decking out, and I imagine you can get skills much further than that. So if we're looking at like a level 10 teleport with some cooldown reduction, I think you're looking at about a 5-second or so teleport endgame. And you can get this rune then.
Yeah,
after teleporting,
probably.
you gain 30% damage reduction for 5 seconds, which is ridiculous. I also mentioned in the How Good is Diablo 4 video the barrier stacking with Align the Elements. Align the Elements reduces the damage you take from elites, bosses, and players.
Think about that, like, because it just stacks up. Like, that's every single time you get hit. Like, basically going into an elite fight, you have a 50% barrier passively every single time.
Forte, né, cara?
And if you never take health damage, if you're constantly cycling barriers, it never drops when you're hit. So the survivability tools and the fact that the sorcerer has many incredibly powerful defensive tools on top of the cycle barriers, I would rank the Sorc as a 10 out of 10 survival. I think the sorcerer, even though it sounds a little bit counter-theming, and the theming is actually very good for the class of Diablo 4, even though it sounds a little bit counterintuitive for the theming of these.
E ele não pegou Hydra, hein? Ele não pegou Hydra pra jogar. Tipo, o Sorc, tipo, ele tá. O mago, né? Ele tá bastante intuitivo. Porém, qualquer coisa que você pegar, mano, vai ser bom. É uma classe que tá, tipo, muito. Falando sobre early game e nunca joguei e comecei a jogar Diablo agora. É uma classe, tipo, super. Assim, aceitável. Que te abraça, tá ligado? Abraça o novo player pra jogar. Isso é da hora. É isso que você espera. Nunca joguei. Sabe aqueles jogos que você abre e aparece assim? Você já jogou jogos como Diablo em alguma vez na sua vida? Se sim, clique na caixa de cima. Se nunca jogou, clique na caixa de baixo. Tá aparecendo isso, tá ligado? Quer jogar realmente com o druida? Você já jogou jogos desse tipo antigamente?
These roles traditionally in like role-play games. Yeah, the sorcerer's got it. You know, 4 to 6
yeah,
seconds.
You feel like a sorcerer whenever you're playing the sorcerer. That's what we like to see. Absolutely. Yeah, I really, really like it. Six Sorc's Glass Cannon. I do think that Necromancer will probably pull ahead towards the end because there will be mobs that the Necromancer can just have minions tank instead of them. And you'll get to the point in the game where one hit will pretty much either insta-gib you or insta-gib your minion. That's the only reason. And also, Sorcerer doesn't have, like, you can't attack a Hydra, which is a good and a bad thing.
Immunity, freeze everything, constant freeze, constant chills, constant barriers.
Olha isso, cara. Imunidade. Tipo, as barreiras do mago te dão imunidades a 2 alinhamentos muito fortes do jogo. Que é congelamento e em chamas, né? Queimado. Você não fica congelado, cara. Congelado é o troço mais broken que tem contra você no jogo, tá ligado? Nem as traps do Diablo 4 dão tanto dano quanto congelar você e o bicho te espancar depois. Geralmente as traps em jogo de Action RPG, a galera que tá no chat sabe, o que eu mais temo em jogo de Action RPG é as traps, cara. As armadilhas do cenário. Sempre morro pra elas. No Diablo 4 eu nem senti. Passava por cima, fiquei vulnerável meu HP. Nem ligo, né?
Multiple immunities, multiple CC breaks, the best passive damage reduction. Barriers are not just extra health. They're temporary, but because you're putting them up repeatedly, they actually function as a form of regeneration. Because it's not like your health goes up by 30% and then you take damage and you have to heal it back up. No, the barrier just absorbs all the damage, then you get another barrier. This is actually a form of regeneration. So the sorcerer is also the highest sustained character in the game.
Wow.
It's possible that Rogue will overcome it when it comes to like end game, and I mentioned kind of the crit scaling of regeneration.
Yeah, we'll see.
Damage-wise, I think the Sorc is a 9 out of 10. I think that Necro seems to have higher target dummy-based DPS, like if you stand in front of your target and
yeah, Necromancer, if you put a Necromancer, like in terms of killing Butcher, I bet you could kill Butcher fastest with a Necromancer. Assuming that he doesn't just like insta-gib all of the pets.
Just spamming the skills, single target. I think the Necro does, at least right now, outscale the Sorc, but the Sorc doesn't really play that kind of game. You know, you teleport a screen away. The Necro doesn't even have a movement skill. You know, I did one cast, and that Hydra cleared
you can tell that it's a good class because he's testing the damage on elites rather than quill rats.
Everything, right? So
você sabe quando ele tá falando de uma classe boa, quando ele tá testando o dano em bicho elite e não em porco espinho, que nem no bárbaro e no druida, tá ligado?
Here we can just go immune, and again, this is a freshly leveled 25. It actually only took me 2.5 hours to level to 25. So the damage, it's not 10 out of 10. It's not 10 out of 10. But the ease of use, the fact that you absolutely murder trash mobs, the fact that you have ridiculous survivability, the best movement skill in the game, and the dynamic playstyle.
He's not even using double dick hydras. Think about that.
The enchantment system.
Ele não tá com a Hydra com upgradeada, tá ligado? Tipo, aprimorada. Não, só tá com 4 cabeças de Hydra, não tá com 5, 6, tá ligado? Acho que é 5, né? Que fica. Ganhou uma a mais, eu acho.
That you can change up in combat. Right? In combat, it is ridiculous. It's a super dynamic playstyle. It is the most versatile, the most mobile class in the game. And the reason why I am pretty certain I'm going to be playing a sorcerer on launch, it's the fastest character clearing these dungeons.
I'm not sure what I'm going to play. It depends on what they release in like the end game previews. It's between right now. It's between Sorcerer, Necromancer, and Barbarian.
There's just no ifs and or like this. Just it just is. It is that. Yes, you might lose out to damage to like a Necromancer or maybe burst to a Barbarian, but in terms of how long it takes to actually clear a dungeon, Sork is the best in terms of real effectiveness.
Yeah, it's like this is one of the things that like a lot of people.
Ó, já sabemos já, chat. Build de farm, speed farm, mago. Vamos começar de mago para farmar os itens, depois a gente passa pros outros bonecos.
People don't understand is that like the effectiveness of the class is not just the target dummy DPS. It's like how good does it deal with like getting out of traps? You know, like for example, you get walled in, you teleport away. You've got 3 different barriers. Like there are so many different ways that Sorcerer scales so insanely well. Like look at Hydra. Like he's literally hitting things that are over here, and and the Hydra is here, and he's here.
Sork is actually just the best right now.
Leaderboard is class-based in D3.
Dynamic playstyle, the best survivability. I'm going Sork. Hope this video has been
informative. Eu vou jogar de Necro, eu já decidi que eu vou jogar. Tô zoando.
More Diablo content. Hopefully you do as well. Thanks for watching.
I definitely do. I'm very excited. That was a good video. Sork is really the best class. Balance, defense, damage, defense, mobility. I think that the goal should not be to make every class be as powerful as Sorcerer. It should be to make every class feel as powerful as Sorcerer. Sorcerer feels incredibly good. It is the best feeling class, I think, in the entire game. I really like it. Yeah, just make them fun to play, and that's what matters. Yeah, 17 damage. Man.
17 damage, cara.
Druids, huh?
Pra quem não entendeu essa piada, eu vou explicar.
Druids.
Vê se ele explica.
Oh, Druids. Give the...
Pra quem não entendeu essa piada, eu vou explicar, tá?
Tornado and Hurricane, like in good old Diablo 2. Hurricane
Diablo 2.
Has a 20-second cooldown, and it lasts for 8 seconds. I'm not kidding you. When I first unlocked Hurricane and I summoned it, it was hitting the monsters around me for 17 damage.
Oh, what a piece of shit. Look at his face.
Esse é o meme, tá ligado?
Where is it? Look at his face.
17 damage. Esse é o meme, tá ligado?
Most optimistic druid. Oh my god. 17 damage. Oh,
é por isso que as pessoas aqui, é por isso que as pessoas aqui tá do jogo, tá ligado? Os caras querem fazer o druida, ama druida. Ah, vou fazer igual o Diablo 2, pegar skill tal. Aí faz, dá 17 de dano e os caras ainda faz bullying, tá ligado? É por isso que os caras quita, velho.
17 damage.
Yeah.